This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right. I wonder if we've got anything to talk about.
I was going to say that.
World of the Miami Heat. I mean, there can't be anything going on right now. There can't be maybe like, let's say, an NBA shell game going on right now. I don't know. You tell me, Ira. We start hearing from Sham's report. Then the agent league gets all pissed off and rants and raves, but I don't see the Heat necessarily flat out denying it all. I don't necessarily see Jimmy Butler calling it all BS. So I'm just wondering, please walk us neophytes through all of this. What is going on? What is real? What is Memorex? Did Jimmy just do a big old dog and pony show and basically got the message out? What's going on? Please.
Everyone got the message out. Everyone here has an angle. So instead of saying that there is no truth to any of this, I would almost go the other way, Big O, and say there is all truth to all of this. Everyone here has a stake. Jimmy's agent has a stake, getting a deal, getting money for his players. The Miami Heat have a stake. Hey, if there's an offer out there, we'd like to know it because we'll be willing to listen. Jimmy Butler has a stake in it. Should I invest my physicality, my well-being on this team? Is there a long-term something going on here? Mickey Arison, who retweeted someone involved in this, one of the agents involved, has a stake. He needs to sell tickets and fill his arena and not have this constant what's going on with this team, who's coming back, who's not coming back. They're the only one who might not have a stake in this, Big O, and this is why we have the Big O Show, and this is why we have an Acura of Pembroke Pines report. The only ones who might not have a stake or a say in this is the fans. Right. And they're sort of left in a lurch about all this, about what might happen, what might not happen. And that's because literally we are playing Survivor. We are all getting ready for tribal council, when everyone's trying to argue their case. And we're wondering, does Jimmy have the immunity idol? Does Jimmy hold an offer from a team that he knows he can get in the offseason so that he can emerge from the island with the grand prize? We don't know all of this. I will say this to everyone out there. After 3 relatively crazy days, it's all part of the game. Nothing has changed. What has changed is you have a young neophyte reporter with ESPN who is trying to make a name for himself and does a very good job of that. You have an agent who gets out front of things and is not shy of being public. You have a team that insists on keeping things in-house. And you have a very persnickety player who till this moment, at 35 years old, still very much and very truly believes he is one of the best players in the NBA. So we have ego, and that's not even getting into what's going to follow now in ego, with the ego of the Big O.
Well, all right. Well, there's not enough room for that ego. Let's leave that one aside. No, but seriously, here's where let's really talk about. You just kind of mentioned it now. You kind of dangled it out there. What kind of Jimmy Butler you're going to get the rest of the year? Because if he's really looking for a long-term contract, the message was sent. He's going to opt out of this last year because obviously he thinks he can get a multi-year deal that's going to be way more than $52 million. He'll get a 3-year deal around 70 or something. Maybe if he plays 2 years, he still gets 70 and not 52 or whatever, or more than that. I don't know if somebody wants to be that.
Big O, hate to interrupt you, but he's thinking more of that for this reason. If it's only a 3-year deal at 70, he has 54 coming in next year anyway. The mid-level is going to reach a point where it'll probably be close to that $20 million for those other 2 seasons anyway. He's looking for way the hell more than that.
Okay.
Now, whether he is justified and knows his valuation, well, you know what? Great Jimmy Butler is like Bitcoin now. Not great Jimmy Butler is like Bitcoin 2 years ago. So it's just a matter of which Jimmy Butler are you getting. But I think that's why Jimmy knows, regardless, he has to be great Jimmy Butler. He has to be great Jimmy Butler to get his money here. He has to be great Jimmy Butler to get his money somewhere else. Jimmy can't sandbag this and still get the money. Because even if the Nets, for example, were to come out and say, we got a big old passel of money, here you go, Jimmy, they have to sell it to their fans. And if they're selling it to the fans as a guy who missed 22 games again and is averaging just 16 points, That's a tough sell for Sean Marks after he's lost James Harden, Kyrie Irving. You can go back to Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett and Darren Williams and the players he had there, Kevin Durant. So Jimmy has to give the buyer something to buy. He has to give the investor, the Heat, something to continue to invest in. So I think Jimmy needs to be really good. This all still has to matter a hell of a lot. Now, when we get past the trading deadline, maybe that's when it changes.
Okay, so now when we see, here's the thing. Maybe he's thinking, because since he already sent out the message that he's going to be opting out, maybe he takes care of himself because he thinks, and his agent, and they're working behind the scenes, hey, no, we're saving ourselves for whoever wants to make a run, then we'll put it all out there. Maybe he's leaving it that way because if he goes all out, his body's going to break down. And then he really won't get traded. I think this is a complete con job on his part. And if the Heat don't make a long-term commitment, I think you'll continue to get the same Butler you've gotten so far, the guy that's missed 25% of the games played. So that's kind of what you've gotten so far, and that's what you're going to get the rest of the season, the guy that's going to miss 25%.
So your standpoint is this. Is there a Jimmy Butler who is more willing to penalize the Heat for not paying him, or a Jimmy Butler who is more willing to show his next team that he's still up to the challenge? Big O, those are two divergent realities. So which is more important to Jimmy Butler as we speak here today? Sticking it to the Heat or proving it to his next contract?
I think conning his way out of everything. Remember, Chris Bosh told the Miami Heat after he came here to win 2 titles, he went to Houston, or was going to Houston, and they had to bring him back by paying him more than Houston was paying him. And that's how Chris Bosh rewarded Pat Riley and the Miami Heat after they made the sacrifice. And by the way, LeBron and Chris Bosh could have come to Miami straight up. Instead, they forced Pat Riley to give up first-round picks so they can trade for them and their bird rights. The Miami Heat are not treated anymore. For a while now, it's been like this. They're not treated anymore by the stars with any kind of breaks whatsoever. And the examples are over and over and over again. So I could definitely see Jimmy Butler protecting himself all the way through, because he and his agent have already worked it behind the scenes where he can rig it and go somewhere else for the next 3 years and make a lot more money. I just think
I just disagree, because if Jimmy Butler's going to be player at 36 who missed a lot of time, 35 rather, who didn't put up the numbers, I think it's going to be hard pressed for a GM, even if there was a wink in advance, to sell that to his owner, to sell that to his fans. I'm not as strong there. Now again,
Ira, they pay Paul George, they pay CP3. Those guys are sacks of injuries, and they keep paying those people. Zion Williamson did nothing for that extension.
We'll see now, because now there's a case where New Orleans can buy their way out of it after the season. So that's another example where we'll see. I think Jimmy's a far more complex situation, because I think Jimmy has sort of been riding the wave a little bit. Look, the perfect world for Jimmy is this: do whatever the hell he wants during the regular season and have a great playoffs. Because that's the difference between Jimmy Butler and Paul George. Paul George has shrunk in the playoffs. Jimmy Butler, when available, has been an elite top 10 NBA player in the playoffs. So and
Jimmy Butler's perfect world, and that's what they'll trade for, and that's what they think they're getting.
He gets there, if he is in the playoffs, if he's not in the play-in, so he has to contribute to the Heat's success, because when you look at the East, we know about Cleveland, and we know right now where Boston is. It's sort of looking like Milwaukee is regaining their stride. Orlando has survived injuries. The Knicks are a very good team. So you're fighting for that number 6 position with some quality teams also. If Jimmy lollygags here, I think it all goes to crap for both him and the Heat.
All right, that's the thing. That's why it's kind of I think this is kind of we're headed for like an ugly tug of war and an ugly divorce.
Which is maybe why this is starting in December, when even you and I said we thought it would start closer to February.
Yes.
Build up your resume, Jimmy Butler, attract other teams' interest, then decide what's in your team's best interest. But you know what? You see this all the time, and it doesn't take a Scott Boras to get the kind of deal that he got with the Mets for Soto or anything like that. Everyone is trying to angle the system to maximize the here and now for their clients. That's what we're seeing right now. No
But
matter
doesn't
who
that
in
tell
this,
you the fact that they're rattling cages in December, middle December? That kind of tells me that they're behind the scenes, like any future is beyond dead already at this
well,
point.
and everyone's been saying where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
I'm not so sure where there's smoke, there just aren't fumes and nothing more, because people are, when you try to make the fire and you fan the fire to try to get the flames going there a little bit more. I'm not so sure that the flames have been fanned enough for the heat to blink. And until the heat blink, it doesn't matter. Big O, the Heat, as far as I can recall in the Riley era, only once have traded an elite talent at midseason for something less. That was when Shaquille O'Neal would sit naked in the Heat locker room and refuse to play, and they sent him out for Sean Marion. Every other time, the midseason deals might have been risky. Terry Rozier for Kyle Lowry, Goran Dragic being brought in for the future first-round picks, but
Right.
it's always been about lifting and augmenting.
And not out of spite. Right. Yeah,
I think Mickey Harrison sort of showed that when he retweeted one of Bernie Lee's tweets yesterday about this whole thing being a farce, because this team's history is not to build it down. Every trade that Orlando Alzugaray has mentioned on our accurate Pembroke Pines report has been get rid of Jimmy, get rid of the salary cap space, start it up again, bring in draft choices, build amongst the youth. It might take a little longer.
Change your ways, dude. Change your ways. The
And
ways
that's
you
all
used
well
to
and
do
good.
things don't work anymore.
So Big O, there's two different plays here, okay? There's the play, do I think the Heat should do it? Do I think the Heat will do it? Same to you.
Right.
Do I think the Heat should do it? I think there's a chance that they really need to sit down with Mickey Harrison and Nick Harrison and Pat Riley and Andy Ellisberg and Adam Simon and Eric Spoelstra and really consider it. Do I think they will do it? Every single action from this team has been no, because it's who they are. And you know what? They might be stubborn as all end, but the stubbornness has paid pretty damn good results for them. One year, they didn't trade Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. They lost him for nothing, but there they were somehow in the NBA Finals against the Denver Nuggets. Last year, they didn't move off Caleb Martin when they had a chance, and there they were getting the snot knocked out of them, albeit without Jimmy and Terry, in the playoffs. So I think that at least makes them have to have that powwow and that meeting. But there is no history under Pat Riley with this team. Even when he arrived, Big O, his first season, he took a hell of a risk. He traded an entire roster, every point guard available, for Tim Hardaway. But that was to make his team better, not to cast off other players. He has gone all in during the season. And if he needs to offload and if he needs to do something, it comes in the summer when his coach therefore is afforded a chance to reset, to come up with a new game plan, and then to move forward. That's when the Shaq trade was made. That, of course, was when the Big Three was made. That's typically the modus operandi. Say, better or worse, the Jimmy Butler trade, the Kyle Lowry trade.
But that was the era when you were actually cycling in and out real superstars, real stars. The last 10 years, you're not doing that anymore. You've only brought in one star. You're trying to manufacture the others. And your problem is that you have the ultimate chef in the kitchen, and he makes everything look way better than what it really is.
Lots of MSG.
The way you've done things in the past, it worked that way. Now it just does not work. That it's kind of like college football now.
Okay.
You need the NIL, bro. You need the money.
And I've got the perfect response for you. You need the NIL, you need to know how to handle recruiting in the portal, or you hire Bill Belichick and you remain old school. That's who the Heat are.
I know.
Bill Belichick's in North Carolina, and Pat frickin' Riley ain't going anywhere here because he believes he has a way of doing things that produces success. And until there is ultimate failure, you have to sit there and go, okay, try it again your way. That's what I think they're going to do.
Okay, so now educate us on this side of the ball on this, okay? Because there's a lot of ignorance going on too with this. And so I don't know all the ins and outs. You know it way better than all of us. The reality is Miami is past the first apron.
Correct.
So for them to make a trade with Jimmy anyway, it's going to be incredibly difficult. One, because they're not going to want to take on any bad salary. So it's going to be kind of a human Jenga type of move that's going to be a little. Follow me on this first
Yes.
of all. Just let me finish the whole question. No, because like they throw in Phoenix. They may not want some of those salaries on the way back because they're trying to get rid of a salary in the process. So all I'm saying is there are some issues. So I know again, I do this all the time. Trade X after 10 interceptions. Trade Jimmy 2 years ago. Don't sign him. This year was Tyreek. Do not guarantee him that money, and they did. My newest one is Tyler. If Tyler somehow magically stays healthy for the next 2 months leading up to that deadline, brother, I would unload and get picks. And so this is the question. It's like a two-part question. One, making a trade while you're keeping Tyler with Jimmy, the roadblocks to that, the hurdles you have to overcome, the perfection that you want on your side is the Heat because of the contracts you may have to take back. Two, if you do get a great deal for Tyler, one that maybe you shouldn't pass up, and you make that deal first, then that alleviates a lot of the flexibility. It gives you more flexibility, with Jimmy Butler and his trade. So that's why it's a complicated question, but you're a hell of a lot more educated in all of this. So walk us through that, because there's a lot of reality there that it's just not that simple to make Jimmy a trade, and the Heat are just going to make a trade with anybody because they're going to try to dump crap on you too.
If you are over the first apron, which the Heat are, you cannot take back a single dollar more than you send out. That matters. If you're over the second apron, you cannot send out more than one player. You cannot, what they call, aggregate. So, for example, this is why we all got in this kerfuffle last night when the Phoenix report came out. Phoenix really can't trade because Phoenix cannot send out more than one player for Jimmy Butler. But the Heat cannot take a single dime more than Jimmy makes in a two-team trade.
Right.
So the only players that Phoenix can send out for Jimmy Butler are Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, or Bradley Beal.
Right.
I think we all agree the core of the Suns is Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. So why the hell would the Heat take back Bradley Beal when they wouldn't honor his no-trade contract last time? He has gotten older. He has gotten worse. One, you can't do that.
And you know how I feel about Bradley Beal.
Right. So even if you were to do that, the Heat then would have to send out another player to another team or with Jimmy Butler in order to make the math work. Even with another team in a two-team trade, because the dollars will never match exactly with the other team over the apron, you would have to find a third team. Well, the problem with the third team is you have to offer them a sweetener. You have to offer them something. Typically, first round, second round picks. The Heat really don't have any. They've spent all them. First round picks, the Heat sure as crap can't do that. 2 of the next 4 are due, 1 to Oklahoma City, 1 to Charlotte. They really don't have that kind of draft capital anyway. Now, in your scenario, you're saying you don't want to take back bad contracts. But right. Big O, beauty, eye, beholder. So if you make a deal with Golden State, is Andrew Wiggins a bad contract when it's considerably less than Jimmy Butler? When you make a trade with Golden State, is Jonathan Kuminga a bad contract that it's low now, but he wants his free agency extension, so it's going to go up into the $30 million range? Is that so what we're really talking about is Pat Riley needing to make the value assessment on any incoming piece, Michael Porter Jr., another name that's been floated, and then Andy Ellisberg having to tell Nick and Mickey Arison how it works on the books and how we make that work. It is very hard in a salary cap, luxury tax apron world to make it work. But all of that said, Ira, I will say this. If anyone can make it work, and Big O, I know you agree with this, Andy Ellisberg can make it work.
But the follow-up is,
okay,
what if you are able to make a Tyler Herro trade before said Jimmy Butler trade?
It depends if you're taking back salary and to what degree. If you're sending out Tyler for less salary to open up that room under the first apron, it's a whole new world.
That's my point.
But a lot of teams don't have that kind of cap space to maneuver that way. We're in mid-season. Everyone's pretty much capped out. They're the San Antonios, a few teams with trade exceptions. It's that much harder. You want draft capital. I get that. Here's my question about Tyler Herro. And you sort of elucidated your opinion on that. Is Tyler Herro a championship difference-making player? Hard to say sometimes.
No.
If he is, you keep him. If he's not, is Tyler Herro then going to be viewed along the same lines of, and you know where I'm going with this, a Trae Young? Well, as long as I can remember, for the last 3 or 4 years, Atlanta seemingly has been trying to unload Trae Young, and there has not been a Trae Young deal to the degree where they had to make an alternative deal this offseason because they couldn't trade Trae Young. Here's another player putting up monster numbers this year, but what do they mean? LaMelo Ball. Similar to Tyler.
Right.
Tyler's not as high a volume player, but again, we're talking second in the NBA in scoring. Charlotte would probably love to do nothing more than move LaMelo for draft picks. So does the team bite there instead? So we have to see, is Tyler a player who contributes to winning? Is Tyler a player the Heat believe contributes to winning, or another team? It's all about value. Tyler Herro has genuine value, Big O. Can you get genuine compensation back with quality draft choices and salary cap and mostly luxury tax reduction?
I'm counting on a desperate team that's on the brink of challenging for something. They think they need an extra scorer, and they said, okay, we can get it's a luxury type of trade.
You know what, Big O? A team that's a desperate team who thinks they have a championship chance probably is more likely to go for Jimmy Butler, because he's proven it on the playoff stage. He's proven in the moments of truth in playoffs when, unfortunately, as you know, Tyler hasn't been available sometimes.
I know.
Jimmy is there for those moments, with last season being an exception, which is why I think as much as you have your sort of order of operations of Tyler than Jimmy, I think it all starts with Jimmy and what you're going to do with him.
I only want the Tyler thing, one, because long-term, I don't think he's really the answer, but two, it would open up flexibility for the Jimmy Butler trade.
Depending on what comes back and what doesn't, depending if there's cap relief or not. Or else if you're trading Tyler just to get that true power forward you want, that's a different situation. You still might wind up playing. Here's the whole deal. I'm going to sort of, let's get this down to the space route right here.
Right.
As we talk here in mid-December, with the Heat on a 3-game winning streak that very well, with Toronto and Detroit up next, could be a 5-game winning streak. Big O, are you, as a Miami Heat fan, who at times even pays to go to the games, willing to shit can this season because of a brighter future? Tell me the truth.
Yes.
Answer one more.
Yes. This team is going nowhere. This team is going nowhere. Yes.
Do you think Heat Nation would be willing?
I don't really care about Heat Nation. They can kiss my ass. To be quite honest, really, these fans have been so spoiled. The Heat organization and Pat Riley and Mickey Arison and family have done more than enough. They deserve, and they need to learn their own reset, because the way they do things doesn't work anymore, and they don't seem to understand that. And they're like Farrat, just running into a wall, or Tua thinking he's some kind of athlete or something. I'll start tackling people and I'll start taking on tacklers or something. That doesn't work. And you got to change your ways. In order to do that, you need to reset. And if you're a real Heat fan like I am, that just bought this beautiful hat, okay? It is a beautiful hat, by the way. I am willing to wait, bro. You know what I mean? I've been around since you had Hansi Gannad in the goddamn, training camp or whatever.
Will Heat Nation wait around?
Well, I don't care about Heat Nation. You've been
spoiled.
People
have marketing cares.
You've gone to the playoffs 4 billion years in a row. Stop it already. Have big picture. You don't invest. You don't worry about Bitcoin when you buy it at 16, because you know it's going to be at 250 and 25. That's what I thought. That's why I'm right. But I have the patience, and I'll wait. I will wait, just like we did. I know you gave us some little playoffs in 08 and 09, but you created the space for the monster move in 10, and it was a beautiful ride. I'm not saying you're going to create another beautiful ride like that, because that may be only once in a lifetime thing. But if you really want to compete in today's world, you need to reset and go get those first rounders and the cap space. And you just don't have the ammo to play in that poker table, and just walking into meetings and throwing your rings on the table. That hasn't worked in so long already. That's all I want. So I don't worry about it. And I get it. It's a business. Mickey has to worry about it. Season ticket holders will be pissed. The people in the Bacardi suites will be pissed, or whatever. I get the reality of all of that. But that creates a vicious cycle that doesn't allow you to really move forward and be what you normally used to be, a championship team, not a play-in team now.
All right, I'm convinced. I'm going to sell my used Volkswagen and head down to Acura and buy a new baby. You've convinced me. I'm reformed.
I mean, no, seriously, man. I mean, Ira, we're spoiled. See, I'm old, dude. I lived it. I already went through this. Shula did it to us when we were young.
Mm-hmm.
We were so spoiled. And then look what happened. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And it's a shame. And so I love Riley. I love the Heat organization. I want what's best for them. This is not what's best for them. This cycle here that they have created, they can't get out of it, dude. It's like it's a hamster in a wheel right now, unfortunately. And I feel terrible for them. And I wish basketball fans would actually, real Heat fans would say, you know what, man, let's support the team, but let's deal with, maybe we got to take a couple steps back and develop young players and try to, get picks and that kind of stuff. That might be the best way forward, man. I don't know. That's just me. Maybe I know I'm in the minority. Go ahead. Tell me.
I'll be in Detroit Monday and Tuesday next week. By midweek, who knows? Maybe we'll have a new team. We'll see.
I don't know. I'm just, so what do you put the percentage as?
I think it's
right
50,
now
I think it's
at Jimmy Butler ending the season with the Miami.
Even trade deadline, Big O, I think it's 50-50. I do think where there's smoke, there are at least cinders and ashes. And I think the Heat will only increase, even if the Heat win, because I think this is a moment that transcends a single moment. This is potentially a years from now altering decision that the Heat have to make. I do agree with that.
All right. Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat and catch his exceptional work there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Ira, thank you as always, my friend. Appreciate it.
Catch you midweek. Try to make a trade for you. Thanks, Big O.
All right, Ira. There you go. Safe in your travels, my brother. All right, there we go. And Acura Pembroke Pines, get your asses down there, man. The finest Acura dealership in the business, in the country. And it's right here in your backyard at 15601 Pines Boulevard, just off of I-75 in Pines. Go see Larry Schlossberg and Pat Nasto and Tony Stampone and all the great people out there. They know how to get it done. The service center led by Mike Chan and Jordan Ferber, absolutely outstanding. They do great work. So if you own or lease a vehicle, you can go there, sit in that comfortable lobby of theirs. You got TVs everywhere. You got una cafeteria there, so you can have a little pastelito. You want a little Cuban coffee. You want a soda, whatever it is. They've got it for you there at Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines. And by the way, the ZDX is in. And it is probably one of the nicest electric cars that is out there. It gets like 320 miles to the charge. You drive away with the charger. So you have it right at home. You don't have to go anywhere. What, are you going to drive more than 300 miles a day? Come on, give me a break. So you can do it every couple of days, charge. They've got some real killer plans. Also, by the way, they've got 0.9% financing right now. These plans are incredible for 72 months. So get on down there. Tell them that Big O sent you. Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.